They say pregnancy hormones make you do crazy things. That's what I told myself when I woke up next to a stranger in Miami, my wedding ring on the nightstand and my phone buzzing with missed calls from my husband. 7 months pregnant, supposedly celebrating my last hurrah before motherhood at a bachelorette party, and I just destroyed everything for 20 minutes with someone whose name I never bothered to learn. Now I'm sitting in my childhood bedroom in Des Moines, 34 years old and starting over, while my ex-husband prepares the nursery I designed for our daughter. Alone. A daughter I'll meet in 2 months but won't raise. A daughter who will grow up knowing her mother chose a meaningless encounter over the family we spent 5 years building. The text message that started my downfall is still on my phone. I can't bring myself to delete it, even though reading it feels like swallowing glass. Know you're having fun in Miami, but wanted to say I love you. Can't wait to meet our little girl together. You're going to be an amazing mom. Sent at 11:47 p.m. on Friday, while I was 3 drinks deep at a South Beach club, grinding against a bartender who kept buying us shots. While my husband Keith was home in Detroit assembling the crib we'd picked out together, I was in a bathroom stall doing things that would end our marriage before our daughter took her first breath. But I need to start from the beginning. From when I still had a husband who trusted me, a baby shower being planned, a future that made sense. Keith and I had been married for 3 years, together for 5. We met at a marketing conference in Chicago, him representing his automotive company, me there for the pharmaceutical firm where I worked. Classic corporate romance, too much wine at the networking dinner, a kiss by the elevator, long-distance dating that turned into me moving to Detroit for love. We'd been trying for a baby for 2 years. 2 years of temperature charts and ovulation tests and scheduled intimacy that sucked the romance out of our marriage. 2 years of negative tests and fertility consultations, the kind of disappointment that either bonds a couple or breaks them. For us, it bonded us tighter. Keith held me through every failed cycle, researched every treatment option, never once suggested we stop trying. When I finally got pregnant after our 3rd round of IUI, Keith cried harder than I did, kissed my stomach and promised our baby he'd be the best father in the world. And he would have been. He was already proving it with every prenatal appointment he attended, every baby book he read, every time he talked to my belly at night. "Daddy's here, little one," he'd whisper before bed. "Mommy and I can't wait to meet you." The Miami trip was my best friend Jenna's bachelorette party. 4 days in South Beach with 8 women, most of whom I hadn't seen since college. I almost didn't go. Flying at 7 months pregnant seemed risky, and Keith was worried about me being so far away so close to my due date. "What if something happens?" he asked, watching me pack. "What if you go into early labor?" "Nothing's going to happen," I assured him. "It's just 4 days. I'll be careful. Promise you'll take it easy? No crazy parties, no staying out too late?" I laughed, rubbing my swollen belly. "Look at me. Do I look like I'll be doing anything crazy? I'll probably be in bed by 9 every night." He kissed me goodbye at the airport, one hand on my stomach. "Have fun, baby. You deserve this before everything changes." Everything changed all right. Just not the way either of us expected. The first 2 days in Miami were exactly what I'd promised Keith. Pool time, mocktails, catching up with old friends. I was the designated pregnant friend, everyone's excuse to take breaks from drinking, to leave clubs early. I didn't mind. Feeling my daughter kick while my friends nursed hangovers felt like winning a different kind of lottery. But by Friday night, something shifted. Maybe it was watching everyone else let loose while I sipped water. Maybe it was Jenna drunkenly crying about how we'd never be young again, how marriage meant the end of fun. Maybe it was the bartender at the beach club who kept flirting despite my obvious pregnancy, making me feel desired in a way Keith hadn't in months. Not that he didn't desire me. He was just so focused on me as a vessel for our child, reverent and careful. This bartender saw me as a woman, and the ugly truth is I missed that. "When are you due, beautiful?" he asked, sliding another virgin daiquiri across the bar. 8 weeks, I said, unconsciously touching my ring. Lucky husband. Though he's crazy letting you out of his sight looking like that. I should have walked away. Should have found my friends. Should have remembered Keith at home, building our daughter's future while I played with fire. Instead, I laughed, leaned into the attention, let him keep the drinks coming. Virgin at first, then, when my friends were too drunk to notice, not so virgin anymore. I shouldn't, I said when he poured rum into my drink. One won't hurt. You're on vacation. When's the next time you'll be in Miami without a baby? The logic of drunk decisions. 1 drink became 3, 3 became 5. The club became a blur of lights and bass that made my daughter kick in protest. Or maybe that was my conscience. Either way, I ignored it. Want to see the beach? The bartender asked when his shift ended. Young, maybe 25, with the kind of abs that came from youth, not effort. I should find my friends. They left an hour ago. Saw them pile into an Uber. They'd left me. 8 women on a bachelorette party, and not one noticed the pregnant girl disappearing with a stranger. Or maybe they noticed and figured I was adult enough to make my own bad decisions. The beach was beautiful at night. Miami lights reflecting on dark water, couples walking hand in hand, the kind of romantic scene that should have reminded me of my husband. Instead, when the bartender kissed me, I kissed back. Blamed the alcohol, the moonlight, the loneliness of being the only sober one for months. My room's just up the street, he offered. I'm married, I said, the words slurring slightly. And pregnant. I know, he said, like neither mattered. And in that moment, they didn't. His apartment was exactly what you'd expect from a 25-year-old bartender. Mattress on the floor, empty bottles as decoration, a smell that was part cologne, part weed. Nothing like the home Keith and I had made together, with its nursery paint samples and baby name lists and future plans. I wish I could blame what happened next entirely on the alcohol. Say I was too drunk to consent, too impaired to stop it. But that would be another lie on top of all the others. I was drunk, yes, but not that drunk. I knew what I was doing when I followed him to the bedroom. Knew whose name I should have been calling when he went down on me. Knew exactly how wrong it was and did it anyway. The sex was terrible. Mechanical, selfish, the kind of encounter that makes you wonder why anyone cheats for physical reasons. He finished in 3 minutes, rolled over, and immediately started snoring. I lay there, suddenly sober, my daughter kicking frantically like she knew what her mother had just done. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Keith's text about loving me, about our daughter, about the future I'd just demolished for nothing. I ran to the bathroom and threw up, blaming morning sickness when I knew it was guilt. I tried to sneak out, but the bartender woke up. Leaving already? I thought we could go again. This was a mistake, I said, struggling into my dress. Your husband doesn't have to know, he offered, like that was the only problem. I have to go. Whatever. Thanks for the story. My boys won't believe I banged a pregnant chick. The casualness of it hit like a slap. I was a story, a conquest, a checkbox on some twisted bucket list. Not a person with a life I was destroying, just content for his group chat. The Uber ride back to the hotel was the longest 20 minutes of my life. Every bump reminded me what I'd done, where I'd been, what I'd risked. The driver kept glancing at me in the mirror. An obviously pregnant woman in a wrinkled club dress at 5 a.m, mascara smeared, shame radiating from every pore. Rough night? He asked, trying to be friendly. You have no idea. I tipped him $40, as if I could buy absolution with money meant for our baby's college fund. I showered until the water ran cold, trying to wash away the evidence, the guilt, the stupidity of it all. But some stains go deeper than skin. My daughter moved inside me, a constant reminder that my betrayal had witnesses, that my selfishness had victims beyond Keith. My friends were by the pool the next morning, nursing hangovers and comparing stories. Where did you disappear to? Jenna asked. We looked everywhere. I wasn't feeling well. Went back to the room early. Pregnancy in Miami is rough, someone sympathized. You're a trooper for even coming. If only they knew what kind of trooper I was. I flew home Sunday, each air pocket feeling like karma coming for me. Keith was waiting at arrivals with flowers and a sign that said, "My beautiful mama." The same kind of thoughtful gesture that made me fall in love with him 5 years ago. The same kind I'd betrayed him for attention from a stranger. "How was it?" he asked, taking my bag. "Did you have fun?" "It was fine. Lots of drinking and dancing, you know." "And how's our girl? She behaved for Mama?" I touched my stomach, feeling her familiar movements. "She's good. Ready to be home." "Me too. I finished the nursery. Want to see?" The nursery was perfect. Soft pink walls with white furniture, a reading corner with all the books we'd collected, a rocking chair where I'd imagined nursing our daughter while Keith read to us. He'd hung a banner that said, "Welcome home, Princess," over the crib. "What do you think?" he asked, nervous, like I might not love it. "It's beautiful," I said, and started crying. He thought they were happy tears. I might have taken it to my grave. Might have buried the Miami mistake and moved forward, convincing myself it was one moment of weakness that didn't define me. But guilt is poison, and pregnancy hormones make everything worse. I started pulling away from Keith. Couldn't stand his gentle touches, his excited plans, his pure love for me and our daughter. Started picking fights over nothing, criticizing everything he did, pushing him away because I couldn't stand how good he was compared to what I'd done. "What's wrong?" he kept asking. "Is it hormones? Are you scared about the birth?" "Nothing's wrong." "Stop hovering." "I'm not hovering. I'm trying to help. You've been different since Miami." I said nothing happened. "I didn't say anything happened." "Why are you being defensive?" "Because guilty people are always defensive." Because every time he looked at me with love, I saw myself in that bartender's bed. Because I was growing his child while carrying the secret of my betrayal. The breaking point came 3 weeks after Miami. I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw it. A video on the bartender's story. Our beach, our night, and his voice narrating. "When she tells you she's married but still comes home with you." Miami, different for real. My face wasn't visible, but my dress was. The same dress Keith had helped me pick for the trip, saying it made my bump look cute. The same dress now marking me as the pregnant woman who cheated in Miami. I threw my phone across the room, shattering the screen. Keith came running from his office. "What happened? Are you okay? Is the baby—" "I'm fine," I screamed. "Just leave me alone." "Victoria, you're 8 months pregnant and throwing things. Something's wrong. Talk to me." That's when I broke. Sobbing on our bedroom floor, confessions spilling out between gasps. The bar, the drinks, the bartender, the apartment, the video. Every detail Keith never wanted to know but couldn't unhear. He didn't say anything for a long time, just sat on the bed, staring at the wall where we'd hung our wedding photos. When he finally spoke, his voice was eerily calm. "You slept with someone else." While carrying our daughter? In Miami. I was drunk. It didn't mean anything. And "You were pregnant. You weren't supposed to be drinking at all." That hit harder than any anger could have. The double betrayal, not just to him, but to our unborn child. "Keith, please!" It was one mistake. One stupid night. "Get out." "What?" "Get out of my house. Now." "This is my house too. I'm 8 months pregnant with your child." "My child who you put at risk getting drunk and fucking strangers? That child?" The venom in his voice was something I'd never heard before. Keith didn't curse. Keith didn't rage. Keith was steady and calm, and everything I'd destroyed for 20 minutes of terrible sex. "Where am I supposed to go?" "I don't care." "Your parents, a hotel, back to Miami to find your bartender. Just get out." "You can't kick out your pregnant wife." "Watch me." He started packing my things, throwing clothes into suitcases with an efficiency that suggested he'd been thinking about this moment since I'd confessed. Maybe he'd suspected all along. Maybe my guilt had been that obvious. We need to think about the baby, I tried. I am thinking about the baby. I'm thinking she deserves better than a mother who risks her health for a hookup, who cheats on her father before she's even born, who lies and hides and pretends to be the victim. I made a mistake. No, you made a choice? A series of choices. To drink while pregnant, to flirt with that guy, to go to his place, to fuck him, to lie about it, to post about what a great husband I am on Facebook while hiding what you did. Those aren't mistakes, Victoria. Those are decisions. He was right. Every word was right. I drove to my parents' house in Des Moines that night, 5 hours of contractions that turned out to be stress-induced. My mother took one look at my face and knew. "What did you do?" she asked, not bothering with comfort. "I ruined everything." The divorce papers came a week later. Keith wasn't contesting the pregnancy. DNA tests would prove it was his, but he wanted full custody once she was born. Given that I'd drunk alcohol and engaged in risky behavior while pregnant, his lawyer was confident he'd win. "You can have supervised visitation," my lawyer explained, "but primary custody will likely go to him. The Miami incident doesn't look good." "It was one night. One night where you endangered your unborn child. Courts don't look kindly on that." I fought it at first. Hired a better lawyer, tried to paint Keith as controlling, suggested his reaction was extreme. But when the bartender's video surfaced in Discovery, his face blurred but his voice clear, talking about the prego who couldn't get enough. My case collapsed. I gave birth alone. Keith was in the waiting room, legally required to be informed, but he didn't come in. Didn't hold my hand through contractions or cut the cord or cry when she took her first breath. The nurses exchanged looks when I listed him as the father, but he didn't appear. I later learned he spent those hours in the hospital chapel, crying to a God he'd never believed in before. His mother told me this months later, her voice dripping with disdain. He asked why God would give him everything he wanted just to have it destroyed by the person he trusted most. The pain of labor was nothing compared to hearing our daughter's first cry and knowing Keith wasn't there to share it. We'd watched so many birth videos together, practiced breathing techniques, argued playfully about who would cry first. Now I was crying alone while nurses pretended not to judge. "Is Dad coming?" one asked gently. "Dad's here," Keith said from the doorway, eyes fixed on our daughter. "Can I hold her?" Watching him hold her for the first time broke what was left of my heart. The wonder on his face, the gentle way he touched her tiny fingers, the tears he didn't try to hide. This was the moment we'd dreamed about for 2 years, planned for 5, and I'd destroyed it for nothing. "What's her name?" the nurse asked. "Amelia," Keith said without looking at me. We'd chosen it together months ago. Amelia Grace. Beautiful name for a beautiful girl. He stayed for an hour, holding her, talking to her, promising her everything would be okay. When he left, he took her with him. Legal custody transferred immediately, my rights limited to supervised visits twice a week. "This is temporary," my lawyer assured me. "Once you establish stability, we can petition for more access." But stability is hard when you're known as the pregnant cheater of Detroit. When your ex-husband's family has connections throughout the Michigan legal system. When the bartender keeps posting about his wildest hookup for clout, adding details that may or may not be true but make headlines either way. I moved back to Des Moines permanently, got a job at a marketing firm that didn't Google prospective employees, started rebuilding. Twice a week, I drive to a supervised visitation center in Chicago, halfway between us, and spend 2 hours with Amelia while a social worker takes notes. She's 6 months old now. Looks exactly like Keith, which feels like cosmic justice. Smiles at me like I'm a stranger who seems nice but isn't quite familiar. Cries when our time is up, but not because she'll miss me. Because she wants her dad, her real parent, the one who didn't choose Miami over family. Keith hasn't dated anyone since. His sister Marlene tells me this during our awkward exchanges at the visitation center, not to give me hope, but to twist the knife. He says he can't trust anyone anymore, she reported last month, watching me play peekaboo with Amelia. Says every time a woman shows interest, he wonders what she's hiding. I broke more than just our marriage. I broke his ability to believe in love itself. The visitation center is a converted house in a Chicago suburb, painted in cheerful yellows, that can't mask its purpose. A place where broken parents prove they deserve their children. The supervisor, Patricia, is kind but watchful, noting every interaction in a leather-bound book. Does the mother engage appropriately? Does the child seem comfortable? Are there signs of bonding? Amelia doesn't cry when I arrive anymore, which Patricia marks as progress. But she doesn't reach for me either. At 6 months, she's learned I'm the lady who appears twice a week with toys and forced smiles, not the warm presence who soothes her cries at night. She's starting to sit up on her own, I tell Patricia, as if I discovered this milestone myself instead of hearing it secondhand from Keith's lawyer. That's wonderful, Patricia responds, scribbling notes. How does that make you feel? Everything here is about feelings. How do I feel seeing my daughter for 4 hours a week? How do I feel knowing Keith won't even stay in the building during visits? How do I feel when Amelia falls asleep in my arms and I have to wake her to hand her back? I feel like I'm drowning on dry land. But that's not what Patricia wants to hear. The worst part is how Keith has retreated from the world. His mother tells me he's lost 20 pounds, barely sleeps, throws himself into work and Amelia, but nothing else. Women from his office have asked him out. Good women, his mother emphasizes. Women who would never do what I did. But he declines them all. I can't, he told his brother, according to family gossip that reaches me third hand. Every time I think about dating, I remember coming home early from work to surprise Victoria with flowers and finding the house empty. I remember believing her lies. I remember building that nursery while she was in Miami. How do you trust after that? I've turned a good man into a hermit, a loving husband into someone who flinches from affection, a would-be romantic into a single father who believes love is a luxury he can't afford. She'll know who you are, my mother says, trying to comfort me. Biology matters. But does it? Does sharing DNA make up for not being there for bedtime stories or sick nights or first words? Does it override the truth she'll someday learn? That mommy loved attention more than she loved daddy. That mommy risked her health for a stranger's touch. That mommy chose 20 minutes in Miami over 20 years of memories? I still have the text Keith sent that night. Read it sometimes when I need to remember exactly what I lost. Know you're having fun in Miami, but wanted to say I love you. Can't wait to meet our little girl together. You're going to be an amazing mom. He was wrong about that last part. Amazing moms don't drink while pregnant, don't cheat on devoted fathers, don't destroy families for validation from a bartender whose name they never learned. The bartender still works at that club, I heard. Still tells the story of the pregnant woman who couldn't resist him. I'm a cautionary tale in Miami, a punchline in Detroit, a supervised visitor in Chicago. All because I needed to feel wanted by a stranger more than I valued being loved by my husband. Some mistakes you can blame on hormones, some on circumstances, some on alcohol or loneliness or the moon being in the wrong phase. But sometimes a mistake is just a choice, clear and simple. A choice to betray someone who loved you. A choice to risk your child's health for your own gratification. A choice to throw away a beautiful life for an ugly moment. I chose Miami. I chose the bartender. I chose destruction. Now I live with those choices, 4 hours from my daughter, rebuilding a life that will never include what matters most. Keith will raise her well. She'll have the stable, loving home we planned to give her. She'll have everything except a mother who put her first. The pregnancy hormones have long since faded. But the guilt, the regret, the knowledge that I had everything and threw it away for nothing, that's forever. A different kind of pregnancy that will never deliver anything but pain. They say it takes a village to raise a child. My village is a supervisor named Patricia who watches me play with my daughter twice a week and writes reports about my progress. My village is a lawyer who files petitions that get rejected. My village is a childhood bedroom in Des Moines, where I stare at ultrasound photos and wonder who I became in Miami. 7 months pregnant in a South Beach club. That's where I stopped being a wife and mother and became a cautionary tale instead. That's where I traded a family for a story some bartender tells for tips. Some women glow during pregnancy. I burned everything down. And unlike my daughter, what I destroyed will never be reborn.